It started with a call that shouldn't have been possible. The operator who answered it, Paula Keene, had been working night shifts at the county dispatch center for almost 15 years. She'd heard everything: drunk drivers calling in their own accidents, domestic disputes spilling into chaos, even the occasional prank from bored teenagers. But this one was different. It came in just after midnight on a Wednesday. The storm outside had rolled in fast: black sky, violent rain, and thunder so deep it rattled the glass. Most of the town was asleep. The phone lines flickered once. Then line 3 lit up. Paula pressed her headset. "Clay County Dispatch. What's your emergency?" Static. Then a faint breath. "Help me," a woman's voice whispered. "He's still here." Paula straightened. "Ma'am, can you repeat that? Who's still there?" The line hissed again, static, like wind blowing through a narrow tunnel. Then the voice returned, trembling. "I shouldn't be here. He didn't bury me right." And then, silence. The call ended abruptly. No disconnect tone, no fade out, just gone. Paula checked the call log. The system showed no number, no caller ID, no time-stamped source. It simply registered as line 3, active, unknown origin. She thought maybe it was a glitch, storm interference, or cross-line bleed. But when she replayed the recording, the voice came through clearly. Female. Late 30s to early 40s. Emotional distress. She reported it to her supervisor. Protocol required documentation, even for false alarms. But what neither of them realized in that moment was that the voice, calm, cracking, unmistakably human, belonged to Grace Wilcox, a woman who had been dead for over 3 days. Grace Wilcox had been a name everyone in town knew. Sunday school teacher, volunteer at the library, married to a local mechanic named Tom. Her death had been ruled accidental, her car found overturned in a ravine off Route 19. A storm that night had made the roads slick, no foul play suspected. Her funeral had taken place just 2 days before the call. When Paula realized the name matched, she assumed there was an error in the system. She called the sheriff's office to report it. Sheriff Cole Turner took the case himself. Turner was the kind of lawman you'd expect in a town like Clay Falls. Stoic, old school, patient. He'd known the Wilcox family for years. At first, he thought it was cruel prank, someone copying Grace's voice. But when he asked the phone company to trace the call, they found something chilling. The source line had originated from the Wilcox residence. Tom Wilcox had been staying there alone since the funeral. Turner drove out himself, tires crunching through wet gravel. The house stood quiet at the edge of the woods, porch light still on, curtains drawn. Tom answered the door, pale, unshaven, clutching a half-empty whiskey bottle. When Turner mentioned the call, Tom froze. "She called you too?" he asked. Turner blinked. "What do you mean too?" Tom set the bottle down on the counter. "The phone's been ringing every night since the funeral. I thought it was a crossed line, but last night she said my name." Paula verified the time of the original call, 12:07 a.m. Tom claimed his house phone rang at the exact same moment. When asked if he answered, he nodded slowly. "It was her voice," he said. "I swear to God, she was crying." The sheriff ordered the home phone line tested. Technicians later confirmed it had been disconnected for nearly 4 months. Grace had canceled the landline service before she died. And yet, the call log in Tom's cordless phone showed 5 incoming calls, all from the same number. Grace's old cell. That number had been destroyed in the crash. By morning, the story spread. Grace's voice had been heard again. The local paper ran a small headline: "Widower claims wife called from the grave." Most people chalked it up to grief, guilt, or drink. But others whispered different things, about the road where she crashed, about the storm that night, about how her body hadn't been found until morning, though the wreckage was visible from the highway. Something about that never sat right with Sheriff Turner. 2 nights later, the calls started again. This time Paula wasn't alone. The dispatcher on the next shift, Ryan Evans, took the first one. He heard the same voice, same words, only this time the message was clearer. "He's still here. Don't let him dig." The call cut off again. They traced the signal, again from the Wilcox property. Turner and a deputy arrived within 20 minutes. Tom met them at the porch, shaking. "The lights keep flickering," he said, "and I swear I hear her walking upstairs." The sheriff went room to room. No signs of a break-in. Everything neatly arranged, except the basement, where the smell hit them first. Earth, wet, heavy, disturbed. Someone had been digging. The basement floor was dirt, common in old farmhouses. In the far corner, behind stacked boxes, a section had been freshly turned, about 3 feet wide. "Tom, what were you digging for?" Tom swallowed. "She told me to," he whispered. "She said there was something down there." Turner crouched down and ran his flashlight over the soil. Something metallic glinted beneath the surface. He called for tools. Within minutes, they uncovered what looked like a small metal lockbox. Rusted, old. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Children, smiling in front of the old Clay Falls Elementary sign, all dated between 1998 and 2001. One girl appeared in nearly every picture. Brown hair, faded red jacket. Turner recognized her immediately. Her name was Abigail Shaw. She'd gone missing 20 years earlier. Her case had never been solved. The storm that took Grace's life had also unearthed a piece of history the town had buried long ago. Turner reopened the Shaw file. Back then, Grace would have been barely out of college, around 23. But a search of old school district records showed that she'd been a volunteer tutor at Clay Falls Elementary. In one of the recovered photos, she stood smiling beside Abigail. Grace had never mentioned knowing her. Investigators sent the lockbox and its contents for forensic testing. The soil around it contained fragments of fabric and bone. DNA confirmed human remains, small bones consistent with a child aged 9 to 11. But here's where it got darker. Underneath the bones were two objects, a cross necklace and a school ID tag. The tag bore the initials TW, Tom Wilcox's. When confronted, Tom denied everything. He claimed Grace had found the box years earlier and hidden it, terrified by what it contained. "She told me once," he said, "that some things in this town were better left buried." But the evidence told a different story. Fingerprint analysis revealed that both Tom and Grace had handled the box, but so had one additional person, unidentified, partial print, estimated to belong to a child. The lab concluded that the lockbox had been buried recently, less than a week before Grace's accident. So how had it survived under their basement floor for 20 years? By now, Paula couldn't sleep. She replayed the 911 tape nightly. Each time she swore she heard something new, background noise that hadn't been there before. She sent the file to a sound engineer in the next county. His analysis confirmed it. Beneath Grace's voice, faint but undeniable, were two others, one male, one childlike. The child was humming, the man was whispering. The final three words, slowed down and enhanced, were unmistakable. "He's under us." Sheriff Turner ordered the basement re-excavated. This time, they dug deeper, beneath where the box had been found. At 3.5 feet, they hit wood, an old plank. When they pried it up, they found a hollow space beneath the foundation. Inside, buried in the dirt, were fragments of clothing and 2 sets of human remains, both identified through dental records. Abigail Shaw and another girl, never officially reported missing. Both had been buried under the Wilcox home for more than 2 decades. When news broke, Clay Falls fractured. Reporters swarmed. The diner filled with whispers. Some said Tom had done it. Others said Grace had known, maybe even helped cover it up. But when they searched the town's archives, they found something stranger. The Wilcox property had once belonged to the Shaw family, Abigail's parents. After her disappearance, they'd sold it and left town. Tom and Grace bought it 2 years later. Forensics never conclusively tied Tom to the murders. The box, the bones, and the phone calls all pointed toward something, but not someone. Then came one final call. 2 weeks after the excavation, Paula's line lit up again. This time, there was no voice, just the faint hum of static, then a low click, then the sound of a child's laughter, echoing faintly in the distance. When the recording was analyzed, the call's origin once again pointed to the Wilcox house, now sealed, condemned, and disconnected from all utilities. Months later, a demolition crew arrived to tear the property down. One worker, a man named Lewis, refused to return after the first day. When asked why, he said, "Because the house kept ringing, even with no power." The crew chief dismissed it as stress, but the rest refused to stay past sundown. The Wilcox property was eventually bulldozed, the foundation filled with concrete. But locals say that when lightning hits the nearby power poles, the ground hums for a few seconds, like a phone line trying to connect. And if you stand there in the rain, they say, you can hear it faintly, just under the thunder. A woman's voice, soft, tired. He's still here. This was the story of Grace Wilcox, the woman who spoke after her funeral. If stories like this leave you uneasy, subscribe to Hard Tells, because sometimes the past doesn't rest quietly. Sometimes it calls back.